Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are focusing on a very specific slice of geography.
Right, the sprawling, sun-drenched streets of Los Angeles.
Exactly. And the traffic clogged streets. But we aren't here to talk about the best taco trucks in Silver Lake or which freeway to avoid at 5.
Because it's all of them.
It is all of them. But no, today is about something much more fundamental. We are talking about the roof over your head.
Or I guess, more accurately, the mechanisms that keep people out from under that roof.
Yeah, residential security. And I have to say, just looking through the stack of research we have, the Locksmith training manuals, consumer reports, FBI crime stats, it became clear pretty quickly that most of us are living in a state of, well, illusionary security.
Or illusionary security. That's a great way to put it, actually. It's that lock it and leave it mentality.
Mm.
You know, you hear the click, you walk away, and you think you're safe.
Right.
But the reality of the actual mechanics of how these locks function is that a lot of what we rely on is basically just theater.
Just theater. Wow. So the mission for today is to strip away that theater. We want to peel back the curtain on the locksmith trade, which is honestly way more fascinating and technical than I expected.
It really is an art form.
Yeah. We want to help you turn your home into a fortress, but, without making it look like a prison.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The goal isn't paranoia, it's preparation.
Yeah.
And the recurring theme in all the expert advice we pulled is layers.
Layers of security.
Right. Security isn't a single product you buy. It's a system you build. You could have a $1,000 smart lock, but if your sliding glass door can be lifted off the track with a screwdriver...
You've basically put a bank vault door on a tent.
Exactly. A bank vault on a tent.
That is a terrifying image. But before we get into the physics of deadbolts and the digital side of smart locks, we have to address the human element. Because even the best system fails if you don't have a pro to install or maintain it.
Absolutely. Finding a locksmith isn't something you want to do during an emergency.
No, definitely not.
That's when you make mistakes.
Yeah.
That's when people get taken advantage of.
Which is exactly why this deep dive is supported by West Point Locksmith. If you are living the LA life, these are the people you need in your contacts right now.
100%.
We are talking about a team with legitimate 5-star reviews serving the entire city, and they are available 24/7. So whether it's a high-tech, smart lock install, lost car key, or a 2 a.m. lockout, you just call West Point Locksmith at 310-295-4040.
I really can't stress that enough. Having that number vetted and saved before the adrenaline hits, that is half the battle right there.
Okay, let's get into the hardware. I want to start with the most basic element of the front door.
Yeah.
The thing I always see in movies where the detective slides a credit card between the door and the frame and pop they're in.
Oh yeah, the classic credit card trick.
Is that just Hollywood magic or is that real physics?
It is entirely real physics.
Yeah.
But it depends entirely on the hardware you have. In the trade, that technique is called lloyding.
Lloyding.
Yeah, short for celluloid, like
Yeah.
using a piece of flexible plastic. And it works specifically on spring latches.
Okay, so the spring latch is the lock that's built right into the doorknob itself.
Right.
The one with the angled face.
Correct. Think about the mechanics of that for a second. That latch has a spring behind it. It's angled so that when you slam the door, the strike plate pushes the latch in, and then the spring pops it back out into the hole.
Right.
It's designed purely for convenience. It wants to close. But because it's spring-loaded, if you can apply force to that angled face from the outside, say with a flexible piece of plastic, you can compress the spring and push the latch back.
So wait, if I leave my house and I only lock the doorknob, I haven't really locked the house.
You have effectively closed the door. You haven't secured it. You're keeping out the wind, but you aren't keeping out anyone with a library card and 10 seconds of patience.
That is wild.
Which is exactly why the deadbolt is the absolute non-negotiable standard.
Hence the name dead.
Right. There is no spring. When you turn that thumb turn or use a key, you are physically driving a solid metal bolt into the frame. It cannot be pushed back from the outside.
It has to be retracted by the mechanism itself.
Exactly. But, and this was a huge point in the technical manuals we read, not all deadbolts are created equal.
I saw that note about the throw. And this feels like a detail most people completely miss when they're buying a lock at the hardware store.
Oh, completely. The throw is just the term for how far the bolt extends from the door into the frame. And the industry standard for actual high security is a full 1-inch throw.
Why does that specific length matter so much?
Because door frames are made of wood. They flex. If a burglar takes a crowbar to your door frame and bends it, a short bolt, say maybe half an inch, might just pop right out of the strike plate.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but a 1-inch throw goes deep enough that you would practically have to destroy the frame to disengage it.
Size matters.
In locksmithing, yes, it definitely does. And while we're on the topic of the bolt, the strike plate is the other half of that equation. That's the metal plate on the door frame that the bolt actually goes into,
Right, usually held in by those tiny little half-inch screws that come in the package.
which is the ultimate weak link. The manuals suggest replacing those short screws with 3-inch screws.
3-inch screws.
Yeah. You want the screw to bite all the way through the decorative trim and into the actual structural stud of the house. That way, if someone tries to kick the door in, they aren't just fighting a flimsy piece of trim, they are fighting the house itself.
That is such a great actionable tip. I mean, 3-inch screws cost, what, 50 cents?
Right.
And it drastically changes the physical strength of the door.
It is literally the cheapest security upgrade you can make.
Okay, let's pivot to a scenario that I think applies to a ton of people in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
The real estate market here is just constant. People are buying condos, renting new houses. You get the keys from the agent, you do the happy dance, and you move in.
And you make the single biggest security mistake possible.
Assuming those are the only keys.
Exactly.
This part of the research really freaked me out. The construction master key system. Break this down because it sounds like a magic trick to me.
It is actually brilliant engineering, but it creates a massive vulnerability. So when a developer is building a tract of homes or a condo complex, the contractors need to get into every single unit. The plumbers, the painters, the inspectors. The builder obviously doesn't want to carry 50 different keys.
So they have one key that opens everything.
Right, the construction master key.
Yeah.
But here's the trick. The locks are pre-pinned with what are called construction balls or split pins.
Okay.
Basically, there are tiny ball bearings inside the lock cylinder that act as spacers. They allow the master key's geometry to line up with the shear line, which is the point where the lock can actually turn.
Okay, so the master key works during construction. Then I buy the place and I put in my owner key.
Exactly. When you insert your permanent owner key and turn it for the first time, the geometry of that new key pushes those tiny ball bearings up and into a trap or a void in the cylinder face.
They just fall into a hole.
Effectively, yes. And once they fall into that void, they are trapped. They can't get back into the pin chamber. So now the math of the lock is completely changed. The master key no longer aligns with the shear line. It stops working instantly.
That sounds incredible, though. So what's the problem?
The problem is physics. Sometimes the balls get stuck with grease or dirt. Sometimes they don't fall. Sometimes the builder just forgets to trigger the changeover altogether.
Oh, wow.
But even beyond that specific mechanism, just think about the human chain of custody. The real estate agent had a key. The staging company had a key. The previous owner's dog walker had a key.
So I could be sitting on my couch watching Netflix thinking I'm perfectly safe. But there could be, statistically speaking, half a dozen working keys floating around Los Angeles.
It is almost a guarantee, honestly. The rule of thumb from every security expert is clear. If you didn't unwrap the keys from the factory sealed packaging yourself, you have to change the access.
Which brings us to a huge money-saving realization. I think most people assume that changing the access means driving to the hardware store, spending $300 on new handle sets and trying to install them yourself. But you're saying we don't have to replace the hardware.
No, please don't. Especially if you have high-quality hardware on the door already, you just need to rekey it.
Explain it like I'm 5 on rekeying versus replacing.
Sure. Replacing is changing the metal on the door. Rekeying is changing the math inside the lock.
Right.
A locksmith comes out, removes the cylinder, dumps out the old tumbler pins, those are the little color-coded metal pieces that correspond to the ridges on your key, and drops in a brand new set of pins that matches a brand new key.
And the old key.
It becomes a completely useless piece of brass. It won't even turn in the cylinder. It's physically blocked because the ridges no longer lift the pins to the correct height.
And the cost difference. It's massive. You might pay $150 or $200 for a single high-end lock set just to replace it, to rekey it. You are paying for a service call plus maybe $15 or $20 per cylinder. You could save hundreds of dollars and get the exact same security result.
This is exactly why we partnered with West Point Locksmith for this episode.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a less ethical company would just show up and try to sell you the new shiny hardware.
Oh, absolutely. The hardware markup is where the easy money is for them. But West Point specializes in rekeying. They aren't there to upsell you on metal you don't need. They are there to actually secure the home.
Right.
So if you just moved or if you lost a key, don't buy a new lock. Just call West Point at 310-295-4040 and ask for a rekey. It's faster, it's cheaper, and it's much smarter.
Okay, let's step into the future a bit here. I feel like metal keys are becoming a bit vintage in LA anyway. Everyone has a keypad now. We are moving to smart locks. But I have to ask, as a tech enthusiast but a security skeptic, are we trading security for convenience? That is the eternal question in this industry. The short answer is yes, they are generally safe if you buy the right grade. We looked at the specs for Schlage, Yale, Lockley, the big boys.
What separates the toys from the tools in the smart lock world?
Connectivity and durability mainly. The Schlage Code and Connect series kept coming up in our research as being basically built like tanks. But there's a technical fork in the road you really need to understand before buying: Wi-Fi versus Z-Wave.
I saw this in the notes. Wi-Fi is the battery killer, right?
It is a massive battery drain. Think about it. If your lock is on Wi-Fi, it has to maintain a high-power connection to your router, which might be on the other side of the house through 3 walls. It is constantly shouting, "I'm here, I'm here."
Right.
That drains AA batteries fast, sometimes in just a couple of months.
And Z-Wave.
Z-Wave is a mesh network protocol.
Right.
It uses very low energy to talk to a hub or another Z-Wave device nearby. It's like whispering to your next-door neighbor instead of shouting across the street.
Oh, wait, that makes sense.
The batteries last way longer, and the network actually gets stronger the more devices you have. But it does require a smart home hub, so it's a bit more set up initially.
I was really intrigued by one specific feature on the Lockley models, the Pin Genie. It solves a problem I never even realized I had until I read about it.
Oh, the smudge attack.
Yeah. It's gross, but it's totally logical. If my code is 1, 2, 3, 4, eventually I'm going to leave greasy fingerprint smudges on those 4 specific spots. A thief walks up, sees the 4 greasy spots, and knows the exact digits. They just have to guess the order.
Exactly. And humans are incredibly predictable.
Yeah.
We pick dates or visual patterns. The Pin Genie is clever because it shuffles the numbers on the screen every single time you approach. The number 1 might be in the top left corner this morning, but in the center this afternoon. You are never pressing the exact same spot on the glass twice.
That is next level security. What about biometrics, though? I love the idea of going for a run in Santa Monica, no keys jingling in my pocket, and just using my thumbprint to get back in.
In theory, it's the absolute dream. In practice, it is complicated. The sensors used on locks like the Ultra Lock are usually capacitive, very similar to your smartphone screen. But if you read the fine print in the user reviews,
Moisture issues.
big-time moisture issues. Water conducts electricity. If your finger is sweaty from that run, or if it's raining, which is rare here, but the marine layer is real, the sensor cannot get a clear read of the ridges of your print. It just sees a giant blob of water.
So I'm locked out in the rain in my running shorts. Not ideal.
Definitely not ideal. The Aquar U100 is rated a bit better for this, but it's still a risk you take with biometrics. And this leads to the absolute most critical smart lock advice. Always have a backup entry method.
Most of these locks still have key overrides, right?
Most do. But some, particularly certain sleek Yale models, are completely keyless. No physical keyhole at all. If the batteries die and the electronics fail, you are entirely locked out.
Wait, so what do you do in that situation? Break a window.
You have to go find a 9-volt battery.
A 9-volt, like the square ones?
Yeah, the square ones from smoke detectors. There are 2 little emergency metal terminals hidden under the keypad. You have to hold the battery against those contacts to jumpstart the lock just enough to type your code in.
I can just picture myself trying to do that in the dark while holding groceries.
It is a total nightmare scenario. So if you go smart, either change the batteries religiously or get a model that still has a physical keyhole as a failsafe.
And one last thing on the smart locks, firmware.
Yes. Treat your door lock like a computer, because it is one. These devices are on the internet. Manufacturers constantly patch security holes, but if you never open the app to update the lock, you are literally leaving the back door open to hackers.
But the flip side, the audit trail seems like a huge perk for the LA lifestyle.
It's the killer feature, honestly. You can see exactly when the dog walker arrived and left. You can give a contractor a code that only works on Tuesdays between 8 a.m. and noon. You aren't handing out physical keys that can be copied at some kiosk. You are granting temporary digital access. That is true control.
Okay, so we have secured the front door. But a house is a 360-degree object. And in LA, we love our indoor-outdoor living. We love our sliding glass doors.
Which are, unfortunately, the absolute favorite entry point for burglars.
Why is that?
2 main reasons. 1, they are usually in the back, secluded from the street, so nobody's watching. 2, the locking mechanisms are notoriously weak. A standard manufacturer latch on a slider is basically just a tiny little hook. A strong person can sometimes just jiggle the door and pop it open. Or simpler yet, they can lift the door panel right off the track.
Wait, lift it out, like physically take the door off.
Yeah. If there's enough clearance in the top track, you could literally put a screwdriver under the door, lever it up, and swing the bottom out. The lock doesn't even matter at that point because the door isn't in the frame anymore.
So what is the fix for that?
You need to physically prevent the slide and the lift. The Charlie bar is the classic solution. It's a hinged bar that folds down and wedges the active door against the frame. Or you can pin the track.
How does pinning work?
You drill a hole through the inside frame and into the door frame, right where they overlap. Then you drop a steel pin or a specialized bolt into that hole. Now, the door cannot slide left or right, and it cannot be lifted up. It is mechanically frozen.
It's simple, cheap, and effective.
And it's visual. A burglar looks in, sees the bar, sees the pin, and they just move on to an easier target.
And speaking of moving on, the sources made a point about windows that was pretty blunt. Burglars don't pick locks, they find open windows.
It's just a numbers game for them. They walk the perimeter. If they try 10 windows and one is unlocked, they are in. Casement windows, the ones that crank outward, are generally harder to pry open than the ones that slide up and down, but both absolutely need secondary locks.
Now the garage. I feel like this is a huge blind spot for most of us.
It is literally the biggest door in your house. And here is the scenario that happens every single day in LA. You park in the driveway, you lock your car, but you leave the garage door opener clipped to the sun visor.
I think literally everyone does this.
You have just left a key to your house sitting in plain sight on your dashboard. A thief breaks the car window, which is quiet and easy to do, grabs the remote, opens the garage, and walks right in. Now they are inside your garage with the big door closed behind them, completely hidden from the street. They have all the time in the world to break through that flimsy interior door into your kitchen.
That is terrifyingly simple. So what? Just take the remote inside with you.
Treat it like a house key. Would you leave your house key sitting on the dashboard? No, don't leave the remote there either. Or just use a smart garage opener that works entirely from an app on your phone.
All right, we have to transition to the dark side of the industry now. We have talked a lot about burglars, but sometimes the actual threat is the person you call for help. I fell down a huge rabbit hole reading about the Locksmith scam.
This is such a critical warning for anyone living in a major urban area. It is often called the lead gen scam.
Walk us through the setup for this.
Okay, so imagine you are locked out. You're panicking. You grab your phone and you search Locksmith near me on Google Maps. You see an ad for a company with a super generic name like AAA Local Locksmith or 24/7 service, and they advertise a $19 or $29 service call.
Which sounds like an amazing deal when you're desperate.
It's way too good to be true. Just think about the economics of it. A skilled tradesperson with a van full of expensive tools and commercial insurance cannot drive across Los Angeles to your house for $19. That doesn't even cover the gas.
So what actually happens when you call that number?
You aren't talking to a local shop at all. You are talking to an offshore call center. They dispatch a quote-unquote technician, and I use that word very loosely here. This person usually arrives in an unmarked personal vehicle wearing street clothes. No uniform, no ID, nothing.
And then comes the bait and switch.
Immediately. They look at your standard quick-set or Schlage lock, something a first-year apprentice could pick in 2 minutes flat, and they tell you, oh, this is high security, this is commercial grade, it can't be picked, I have to drill it.
And drilling completely destroys the lock.
That is the entire point of the scam. They drill it out, ruining your hardware. Now you are totally stranded with a broken door. You have to buy a new overpriced lock from them, plus the inflated labor, plus the emergency drilling fee. That $19 quote suddenly becomes a demand for $400 or $500.
And they usually demand cash, right?
Cash or debit right there on the spot. It is entirely predatory. We saw that investigative report from Matt Schrader where they actually set up a sting operation. They had a veteran locksmith verify the lock on the door was incredibly easy to pick. The scammer showed up, fiddled with it for maybe 30 seconds, and immediately reached for the power drill.
It makes my blood boil, honestly. So how do we spot the real pros?
A real professional like our sponsor West Point views drilling as the absolute nuclear option. It is the last resort. They will try to pick it, shim it, or bypass it first. They actually take pride in not destroying your property.
And what about visual cues?
Look for a marked company vehicle. Look for a professional uniform. And listen closely to the initial phone call. A real local locksmith can give you a firm price range for a standard lockout over the phone. They won't give you a vague starting at $19 line.
This really reinforces why you need to have a trusted number saved before you are in panic mode, because when you're stressed, you make bad decisions.
Exactly. When you are prepared, you just make a phone call and relax.
So let's bring this all home. We've covered a ton of ground today, from spring latches to Z-Wave networks. What are the big, actionable takeaways for you, the listener, today?
Let's break it down into 4 simple steps. Step 1 is basics. Check your deadbolts tonight. Make sure they have a full 1-inch throw and that you've upgraded those flimsy strike plate screws to 3-inch screws.
Step 2, access control. If you just moved in rekey immediately, do not assume you're the only one with a key to your house. And audit your keychain. Remember, rekeying is way cheaper than replacing the whole lock.
Step 3, embrace the tech, but be smart about it. If you go for a smart lock, stick to the reputable brands like Schlage or Yale. Keep the firmware updated on your app and fully understand the moisture limitations if you choose biometrics.
And step 4, perimeter. Secure the sliding glass doors with a Charlie bar or by pinning the track. And whatever you do, do not leave the garage remote on your car visor.
And finally, please avoid the scammers. If it sounds too cheap to be true, it's going to cost you a fortune in the end.
Which brings us to the most important contact you can put in your phone this week. If you live in the LA area, grab your phone right now and save this number: West Point Locksmith, 310-295-4040.
They are the absolute antidote to those scammers. 5-star reviews, legitimate local pros, and they are available 24/7. Whether you need a simple rekey, a complex smart lock installation, or you are just locked out at midnight, they are the ones you want to call.
That is West Point Locksmith, 310-295-4040. Keep your home business and vehicle secure.
Peace of mind is definitely worth having the right number saved.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with a thought that kind of stuck with me while we were prepping for this deep dive.
Go for it.
We spend so much time thinking that the hardware itself, right? The metal, the heady bolts, the Wi-Fi signals. But security is really about information at its core. Who knows your code? Who has a copy of that brass key you gave to a neighbor 3 years ago who since moved away?
That is a really powerful thought. You can have the strongest, most expensive lock in the world on your front door. But if you have lost control of the keys, the lock is completely irrelevant.
Exactly. So do an audit this week. Check your smart lock logs. Count your physical keys, because security isn't a product you just buy once and forget about. It's a habit you have to maintain.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for diving in with us today. Stay safe, Los Angeles.
Stay secure.